Right, so recently I came across a situation on TikTok involving some wedding dress drama, and if you've watched this channel previously, you would know that's not very uncommon. And I didn't end up making a video on it just because there wasn't like too much to talk about. It was just kind of this like one situation, like 2 short videos. But today I was scrolling on TikTok and then I realised there's a bit of an update involving someone else coming out and speaking about a very similar experience that actually resulted in a lawsuit. So in this video, we're going to cover both situations. The original video that I mentioned earlier, and then this more recent update that we've got involving the lawsuit. So a bit of backstory, this is all revolving around a company called Something Borrowed Bridals, and it's in Utah. This is a company where people can bring their wedding dresses, so they've wore it on their wedding, they don't really have much use for it anymore, they could make some money out of it, so they go to Something Borrowed Bridals, they work out a deal that if someone comes in and rents your wedding dress for their wedding, you would take a percentage of the money for that. Or at least that's how it's supposed to work, and the fact that we're talking about this, you can probably guess, it didn't really go that way for a lot of people. Now, one person in particular who had a bad experience with Something Borrowed Bridals was actually Kenna, who's a TikToker with about 1,000 followers. And she recently released a few videos talking about her experience with Something Borrowed Bridals, and the original video actually has about 1 million views at this point, so let's give it a watch.
If you've consigned your wedding dress to Something Borrowed Bridals in Provo, Utah, please stop and watch this video. So I took my dress to the store over 2 years ago, but now I'm getting ready to move cross country, so I was like, maybe I should go check on it. So I go and talk to an employee and I'm like, hey, how many times has my dress been out? Just wanting to check on it. And she tells me that my dress has been out 5 times. So at this store, if you give them your dress and it gets rented to someone else, then you get a portion of the rental cost, and we signed a contract about it and you're supposed to get paid within 30 days. So I was like, I have never gotten paid.
So yeah, you get the basic gist of it straight away, right? She was supposed to get paid because people had rented her wedding dress, but she never had, in the space of 2 years. And as we'll later find out, Kenna isn't the only person who had this experience. So of course, after learning this, Kenna decides to contact the store. She's then told by someone working at the store that she should probably speak to the store owner, which proves to be pretty difficult.
So I told the girl that I've never gotten paid, and she was like, okay, you'll just need to contact the store owner, Brooke. So I emailed Brooke and I explained the situation and that I need 5 payments and that I'm happy to take whatever form of payment is easiest for her. Over a week goes by and I don't get any response. So I'm like, okay, I'll try calling her. So I call, no answer, leave a voicemail, but I was like, okay, it's the week of the 4th of July. Maybe she's just not working this week. So the next week I call again, no answer, leave a voicemail. And I decide I'm going to go back to the store because at this point I'm a little scared that I'm not going to get paid and I'm going to get ghosted.
And Kenna does manage to speak to the store owner at this point. She's told that she will be paid. When asked for like a reason as to why she hadn't been paid before, she kind of just received a bunch of excuses, and according to this video, the store owner didn't really seem too apologetic.
So I go in to talk to Brooke and I'm like, hey, I'm just here to talk about some payments that I'm expecting. And she's like, okay, what's your name? And she looks me up and then she's like, okay, I'll send you that check on Monday. And she's acting like that's the end of the discussion. So I was like, okay, but why haven't I been paid up to this point? And she's like, we're just really behind, sorry. Again, acting like it's the end of the discussion, that's all she needs to say. So I was like, okay, but in the contract it says I'll get paid 30 days after the rental is due. And she's like, we're just really behind, sorry. And I was like, okay, so the contract means nothing to you. And she was like, I'm not trying to make excuses, I'm trying to be fully transparent, and the truth is that we're just really behind and we're trying to sell the store, and so hopefully the new owner is more on top of it.
Yeah, so the fact that they're trying to sell the store actually does come up a little bit later when we speak about the other user who's recently posted a video talking about their experience. But yeah, like I mentioned before, Kenna isn't the only person who had an experience like this, right? If we go over to the Google reviews, there's still quite a lot of people just on there that are also talking about very similar things. Like this review that was actually posted just a few days before Kenna uploaded her original video, so this is still pretty recent, and says, if you're looking to consign your dress, I would choose anywhere else but here. They are so disorganized and never pay you the percentage of earnings that you deserve. I had to call every year and ask if my dress is being rented, and they would say, oh yeah, a few times this year, although I didn't get any payments for it. I would basically have to call them to ever get paid for the rentals. It then goes on to talk about some more difficulties with getting paid. It then says, when I received a check from the owner, it bounced. I tried to contact her multiple times to find a way to get my payment and got no response. And then ends it by saying the only way she actually got paid was because she had to mention that she would take legal action. Another review here from a year ago that says, will not get paid for your consignment and your dress will come back looking like it went through a circus tour. The manager will put you off like you were the problem, avoid. And there's a tons more reviews that are very similar, like this one from 6 months ago, which is again saying very similar things like, I tried renting out my dress through this company and couldn't get the payment. complaints. And again, also goes on to say that it wasn't until I threatened legal action at the end of December that I finally received a prompt reply, my overdue payment and my dress returned. Now, as you can probably imagine, when you go over to the Something Borrowed Bridals TikTok account, all the comments on the most recent posts are about this. Like this one that says, is this the same company that doesn't pay for 2 years and also doesn't pay after they get sued? We're getting to that. Another comment saying, pay Mikkel what the judge ordered. Again, we're getting to that. At what point is it considered fraudulent enough to warrant police investigation? And pretty much every comment that I can see here is very similar talking about this situation. As we just read, there's a few mentioning not paying after being sued. Now this is where we're actually going to talk about the lawsuit. In fact, it is worth mentioning quickly that Kenna did end up getting paid after posting her video, and then also asked for some compensation due to the fact that the payment was so late, and didn't get an answer. But now this is where I need to introduce you to another user called Mikkel Cheever. Now Mikkel saw Kenna's video and actually commented on it. That's the comment that's on screen here saying this, I'm so glad I found your video. I won a lawsuit with them for damaging my dress and they never paid me. Also, it's worth noting at this point, it does look like Mikkel is recording this while driving. I'm like pretty positive that she isn't, and it's just the fact that the camera is mirrored because she's in America, and if this was her driving, she would be driving on the left-hand side of the road, which obviously doesn't happen in America. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out because it does kind of look like it with the fact that the camera's mirrored.
Okay, story time. Because like Kenna, the original poster of this video, I have a very similar story. I started renting my dress out through Something Borrowed Bridals back in 2019. After like a year or two, I have not been paid at all for my dress. So I go into the store and ask for records of when it's been rented. It's been rented out like 5 or 6 times. Have not been paid any of those times.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same situation, right? We have seen so many people at this point, some that I didn't even like read on the reviews, right, that have had very similar experiences, and it really does feel like, from everything that we're seeing, that this company is just straight up scamming people. I mean, they might eventually pay you, like we saw in some of these cases, but it's not without some struggle. And also, they should be paying you after your dress has been rented out, not when you finally like decide to follow up and be like, what's going on here? And on that note, it feels like the company's strategy, from everything we're hearing here at least, in my opinion, it feels like the company's strategy is hoping that you almost forget about this and you don't contact them so they can keep the money. I mean, how else is it supposed to come across? Now, Mikkel does go on further to explain that after trying to follow up with them and after some trouble, she did end up getting paid, but when she got her dress back, because at this point she wanted the dress back, it was damaged.
But when I go to pick up my dress, I see that it's noticeably damaged. Like, it's very yellow, beads are missing, and this is a custom-made Haley Page dress. So this kind of yellowing and damage should not be happening after only like 3 years, right?
Now here's a picture of the dress. So all this yellow isn't supposed to be there. Like when I first saw this picture, I thought, oh, maybe some like gold accents, right? But we see the before picture, this isn't supposed to be yellow. We can see a closer picture here, and I mean, I don't even know how this really happened. Someone did like post a theory in the comments. What did they say? So someone said they likely dry cleaned it, which you cannot do with beads like that. They will yellow, break, melt, etc. So maybe that's what's happened here. It is also worth noting from everything we're hearing here, the company does say that they will fix like any damages before giving you the dress back. In Kenna's video, there were some damages and they offered to fix it as part of the deal. But in this case, Mikkel goes on to explain that they didn't want to repair the damages.
So I say to her, like, this is damage. Like, in the contract, it says you have to pay for damages. And she's like, no, this is normal wear and tear, just from being rented out for the last few years. And I'm like, no, like the contract says, if there is damage to the dress, you pay for those damages, or you have to pay me the value of the dress.
Now this is where we get to the legal stuff. So Mikkel takes us to small claims court and ultimately wins. She also brings like a seamstress that she knows to testify and say like this isn't normal wear and tear.
My dad is a lawyer, so we decide to go to small claims court to try to sue Something Borrowed, and this takes a while because she's not cooperating. Like with the mediator, we go back and forth for a while, and I was not able to travel there because I was at the time pregnant and having complications. So my sister goes in my behalf. They agree to that, and one of my good friends, who's a seamstress, testifies in court that this is not normal wear and tear, that this yellowing, especially with a designer dress, should not occur for at least like 50, 60 years.
Now Mikkel also goes on to say that the owner was like nasty to her friends and family that were there at the court, but like I mentioned before, Mikkel does ultimately win.
And you guys, in court, she is so nasty. She is attacking my family, saying awful things, calling my friend, who is the seamstress, a liar, saying all these horrible things, and just one of the most hostile people I have ever met.
But after winning in court, it seems like the owner just doesn't want to pay, so Mikkel and her dad, who is a lawyer, decided to try and put a lien on the business.
We only sued her for $900 something, what she owed us for the dress, basically, to fix it. And she refused to pay it. Keeps going with her same story that this is not her responsibility, even though it says right in the contract that it is. And so my dad and I decide, okay, well, we are going to try to put a lien on her business. We've come this far, even though it is again going to cost us money to put a lien on her business and keep going forward with this case. But we've made it this far. We figure, let's do it.
But then Mikkel ends the video by saying that they weren't able to put a lien on the business because of the way that the business was set up. So judging from that video, it seems like Mikkel couldn't really do anything about this, but there has actually been a new update video uploaded by Mikkel where she has said that they did actually manage to put a lien on the business, meaning they're no longer able to sell it, from what I understand and what Mikkel is saying in this video, which is of course something that they were trying to do.
Alright, update on the Something Borrowed lawsuit. I just left the courthouse and I was able to place a lien on the company, which means basically that she cannot sell the business without paying me for the damages that she owes me. And basically her property could potentially be seized by the court if she refuses to pay that debt.
Now Mikkel also goes on to explain that she rang up the owner to kind of like tell her the bad news, I guess, in the case of the owner, who then kind of responds in a bit of a snarky way we hear, saying like, oh, I always pay off my debt, but then hasn't paid this off yet. I don't know.
And a little bit of a funny story, I just called her, just got off the phone with her. I was calling the business expecting to just get on the phone with an employee and ask them to tell her about this update, but was a little bit surprised when she answered the phone. So I just told her, like, I don't know if you remember me, but in 2023 I won a lawsuit against you and you refused to pay me for those damages, even though the judge ruled in my favor. But you will now be paying those damages because there is now a lien over your business. And she was so snarky. She was like, we always pay our debts. And I said, I hope you do, because there is a 6% interest rate that will be compounded each year, and it's already been 2 years. So you better pay up soon, Brooke.
So yeah, that's kind of the situation at this point. So if this is true and they are no longer able to sell a business until they kind of pay off the debts, then hopefully a lot of people who haven't received payments will actually be getting paid. But who knows what that number is? It could be pretty high from what we're hearing here, the amount of people that have said that they haven't been paid. So if the number is really high, there's obviously the chance, I mean, we've seen it in previous situations where like they can declare bankruptcy and whatnot and kind of get out of it in a way. But who knows? Hopefully the people who actually are owed the money do end up getting paid. And with that all being said, I would love to know your opinions in the comment section down below on everything that we spoke about in today's video, and what do you think is going to happen next? Also, if you did enjoy the video, please do leave a like on it, subscribe if you are new, and until the next one, I'll see you guys in a bit. Alright, goodbye.